Yes, it's still this morning on ITV, reaching you live from the network service of independent television. Here at the Benin Network Center, we just wrapped up a discussion, the battle for freedom in the southeastern region. Abuja Network Center is already standing by to take us through the next phase of our discussion. Tolulogbe.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I'm talking about the battle for economic freedom, and that takes us to our next discourse, where we have a special guest also joining us this morning. Right there, there is no other person than Atta Joseph, right there, who happens to the chairman of Committee Micro and Medium Enterprise. Right there, has to take a look at the issues concerning the economic policy of the government and as it relates to the MSMEs in Nigeria. It's a wonderful time to have you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we want to hit the ground idea by taking a look at the issues that concern the growth of SMEs in Nigeria. I know you are a member of the forum. What do you hope to, or what does the forum meant to achieve? Right.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. The forum is the forum of small and medium business membership organizations of Nigeria. It's like an amalgamation of associations of businesses. You know, each of the sectors we have in the country, agriculture, agro-processing, mining, services, and industry, they have associations. You may call them cooperatives or call them business associations. And there are several of them in the country. So the forum, MSME Forum, is an amalgamation, an umbrella association of the associations that have been set up to assist them to be able to address their challenges in a more holistic manner. So what we do is to try to see what the challenges are and use the capacity we have at our level to look and connect with stakeholders that have an ability to address those challenges, either from the angle of government, the angle of development partners, financial service providers, whatever it may be. In essence, we are an association that have higher capacity than the business membership organizations that are in fragments. In Nigeria, you may have more than 100 of them because each business area normally organize themselves into associations, and they have the reasons for doing so. But nevertheless, they are fragmented. Their strength and power are also fragmented. But this umbrella association is able to muster the force which the individual associations may not be able to muster in terms of knowledge, in terms of capacity, in terms of ability to penetrate quarters like government, ministries and departments, where the association themselves may not be able to go.
Okay.
So that's what we do.
Okay.
And what we have come up with is make sure that we develop strategies for each of the sectors of the economy along which they should be able to proceed, either in agriculture, in mining, in fashion and fabric, hospitality, upholstery, name it, all sorts of associations that we have. Our idea is that you cannot really contribute to economic development. Same is if you do not have any path to go. So we are coming up with a new idea in Nigeria, whereby we have a comprehensive 5-year strategy for MSMEs. If you take the agricultural sector, for instance, let's say rice, you should be able to know where you are moving from this year, the next 5 years. You
can have a projection.
You have a projection in terms of hectares. You are going to bring out that cultivation. What do you need in terms of finance? What do you need in terms of input? What do you need in terms of marketing? And you have a growth path. And if each of the economic sectors are growing along that line, you might see at the end of the day that we might make more impact on the economy because you have a projection. People have said that you cannot really reach a destination you have not set to go. But as it is today, we don't have that comprehensive strategy for agricultural sector, mining sector, that is not only broad-based, but it's understood by those who are practitioners in that area and what each of them should contribute to the whole in their respective sectors. So we are coming up with the idea of having a 5-year development strategy for MSMEs in Nigeria. And to be able to operationalize that, we are setting up a structure. The structure is in place already that will implement the strategy itself.
That has been planned by the forum to better the lot of SMEs owners.
Yes, yes.
But that brings us to a particular question. Recently, when the new administration came aboard, they talked about, the vice president specifically talked about the importance of single-digit loan for MSMEs. Yes. How do SMEs capitalize on this to better the lot? We know there has been so many challenges in the case with the recent fuel subsidy removal, which has affected so many SMEs. How do they benefit from this city? How do you people hope to tap into this to improve the idea?
Single digit, yes, is necessary at this time. There are two ways of viewing it.
Yeah.
Yes, if you have single digit interest rates, it's going to cushion the cost of production for MSMEs. Yeah. Because the interest they pay for loans they take is an additional cost. Yeah. Like you have said, with increase in price of fuel and the fact that they don't have power supply that covers the whole of the country where the people are spread, means that they have to depend on their individual alternative power generating arrangements. And that means you are going to pay a lot of money in order to be able to buy fuel or diesel, and that is actually increasing the cost of production. And the ultimate impact of that is that the output will have to be sold at a higher price, and that might make our own goods uncompetitive compared with countries like China. So if China spends less in producing, let's say, pencil, then and the transport or export the pencil to Nigeria, and the cost of pencil in Nigeria is higher, definitely Nigerians are going to patronize the China pencil. Yeah. So the entire environment charged with high cost of production, and the single-digit interest is just maybe just one of the things that needs to be done to reduce that cost of production. Yes, when that happens, that is, we have single-digit interest rate, it will help our members. We can easily mobilize them and then profile them. In fact, we are trying to see what to do to have a data of the MSMEs we have in the whole country in such a way that you can pre-qualify them for such facilities. That is good, but you know, generally, it's a subsidy.
It's a subsidy.
When you are going into single-digit interest, means somebody has to pay for the real cost of that project or lending or credit provision. Remember that the institutions that are supposed to lend, banks or whatever, they are normally collect whatever they are lending from people at a cost. Yeah. And then you also add the cost of operation, of loan administration. Put all that together, that's why high interest rate of 20% or 25%. So if you bring it to single-digit interest rate, that might be, let's say, percent. Somebody has to pay the difference between 9% and 20% and 25%. That means subsidy has to be provided. And subsidy is actually allowed in various countries of the world. This may be a way that government can make that contribution, particularly in the current situation where cost of production is high, where the business environment is harsh. That development in the MSME forum on behalf of our MSMEs. And we hope that we'll have sufficient resources to be available. So it's not sufficient for you to say you give single-digit interest facilities. You must have sufficient resources for it to go around. If not, there could be sometimes implications in itself, because you go to a financial institution and the financial institution has some low-digit interest rates and they have high. Not everybody have access to the low-digit interest rate, so it might create some problem. So if you really want to go into terms of interest rate reduction, you need to really plan and budget what the subsidy component of that low interest rate will be and be able to make adequate provision for it to be sustainable. So we welcome the development. It's going to MSMEs to grow. And there are other things that need to be done in order to reduce the cost issues related to taxation or multiple taxation.
I was about saying that because recently they got talking about so many areas of taxation that a lot of people are so worried about. And for the SMEs, we talked about increasing the idea for a country to grow. For us, there must be an alternative means of generating revenue. And also MSME, that's where the SME is coming in. But there have been the issue about taxation, which this government have been emphasizing on. How would that affect the growth of MSMEs and your members?
Well, the point is that anything you can do, either through interest rate reduction or even tax holidays, because currently the cost of production has increased by virtue of the environmental we find ourselves with respect to exchange rates of the dollar to the naira, with respect to fuel subsidy removal. So under such condition, I think one of the most effective ways is to give some tax holidays, tax reliefs to businesses. And the incidence of double or multiple taxation should actually be reduced to enable the businesses have a breathing space to be able to operate not only sustainably but effectively and efficiently and in a cost recovery manner. So if you remove tax or give tax holiday, actually it's going to reduce the cost of production. Remember, for every production that is carried out in Nigeria or elsewhere, there are elements to that cost. You have raw materials, you have taxes there, interest you pay on loans, labor, capital, and all that. So reducing or removing the tax in multiples is going to go a long way to assist in terms of making the environment friendly for our MSMEs in the country.
Okay, interesting right there. While we're talking, you talked about access to funds. Because making a pronouncement about making single interest loans available is a different thing to access those loans. And being backed up by federal government is another challenge that the SMEs has to face. We've been talking, these things have been there over the years. We've had instances where so many SMEs who complain. They are making statement that funds are available for them to access. But when they get there, it's difficult to be able to do that. If you happen to have the opportunity with the forum to be able to talk directly to federal government, how do you remove those bottlenecks that becomes easy for everybody who has a genuine, who are genuinely in developing their through SMEs can be able to access that?
When you say difficulty in access to finance, we have to understand the perspectives. There's something we call mutual mistrust and dichotomy between the suppliers of financial services and those who are using those financial services. The suppliers are the financial institutions. We are talking about the banks, talking about commercial banks, maybe microfinance banks. What we are having as the situation currently is that there is a wide gap between those who are using these financial services and those who are actually supplying. So sometimes you might get to financial institution and it might blanketly tell you that MSME risky to lend to. And they say there are very many and the cost of administration might be so high for you to service them. You get to the MSMEs themselves, they are now talking about what you are saying, the issue of conditions that are being put in place by those who are lending. And they may say those conditions are too high that they cannot even understand. You have to fill a lot of forms and things like that. So this mutual mistrust and gap will have to be addressed. And how do we do that? As a financial institution, maybe any institution that is set up or arranged to provide funding for MSME, you have to know that sector very well. You have to come down to the sector, know their peculiarities, in fact, know their businesses, and be able to cultivate a relationship that they may not want to destroy. So if we have to advise the government, the capacity has to be built from both ends. The capacity of financial service providers have to be built for them to understand the promoters of MSMEs in terms of their personality, as well as in terms of their businesses, the value chain and processes. So those who are really lending will have to come to the understanding. You need to build their capacity in that. And then the MSMEs themselves work capacity building and skills development to understand why a financial institution will tell me, bring this, bring that. There are reasons for that, because they are managing resources on behalf of people, and so they have to bridge their gaps. But if the MSMs are able to understand from that angle, then they will struggle to see how to meet the conditions. It's not because the conditions are there to, put them off, but they are there to safeguard their own interests. And interests are not safeguarded in terms of risk management. What you are going to find is that you give out money, you are not able to recover. If you are not able to recover, able to exist as an institution to continue to render the services. So that should be understood. So it's like there has to be a compromise. While wherever it is possible, the institution giving credit facilities, loans to the is should to and simplify their conditions, compromising the risk principles. And then the MSMEs themselves, and that's what we want to do ourselves as an MSME forum, to educate our members to understand, what are conditions they have to meet. If a bank is giving you a loan, for instance, they want to know your character, and that means they have to relate with you to know that character. They want to know your cash flow. They want to know your credit capacity. They want to know if you can meet the conditions that are setting for lending. All these are very, very important, and they are lending principles and policies of institutions, which you have they have to abide by the central bank guidelines on this. So it's important that they are able to understand the MSMs in that perspective, so that they will remain as institutions.
On a second thought, while you're talking about it, something crossed my mind. Most times we talk about the bottlenecks. So many forms of fail when you want to assess loan. And at times you have managers of SMEs who are not educated. Is it not possible to start looking at the possibility of having like a voice in different languages that people can listen to, instead of going through the process of reading so fast and stuff like that? At times somebody says something, you hide something from someone, put it in paper. Is it not something that the forum should also try to do, how to address, to talk with?
Yeah, we are really having that in mind to ensure that most of our programs are translated into local languages, either the audio as well as visual, so that we can communicate with those who are doing businesses and who may not be literate. The fact that somebody is not literate does not mean they don't have intelligence. So you should find a way of communicating with them in their local languages, and that is going to go a long way to better their lot. So for us, the way I look at it is that when you start your program, you might start with those like medium enterprises. Remember, we're dealing with micro, small, and medium enterprises. So if you start with medium enterprises, those who are literate, you are coming to the small, and then to the micro, where most of the illiterate population are. You would have learned some experiences. But whatever you're dishing out to those who are educated, you should also have a package that's the needs of those who are operating in the micro and the nano sector of the chain. So it's something good and something we are going to look into. Our communication program is going to actually be very, very comprehensive, because we are a new project in Nigeria, and because we are new, we need to come to let Nigeria know what new things we are bringing to the table in terms of our approach to support the MSME growth and development in the country. And you will not be able to achieve that if you do not have a communications program and strategy that addresses every part of the population. Remember, most of the business in the country, in fact, about 96% of business in Nigeria are in the MSME sector. And of that, a higher percentage are in the micro sector. Micro answer about smallest. Nano is there, you know, that's the smallest. Then you get to micro, the small and medium enterprise. But majority of them are in the micro and nano sector. So in that sector, you have high level of illiteracy. Maybe you may have, and the level of education is low, and because of that, understanding about business principles and reason why some things are below. So you have to be able to break down whatever idea you are bringing to the table to the language they understand, translate it to their local language, and be able to communicate it to them in the manner that they understand. Another dimension to it is that you have to have a feedback. So yes, if you are giving those messages on radio, on television, there should be a feedback that will help you to be able to have a dynamic where you need to probably review, realign in order to meet their needs. Ensure that they are included in the economic development or process of the country. You do that.
Okay.
So communication is all about, you know, back and forth.
Okay, finally, before I let you go, this crossed my mind, and it's a major source of worry. Talking about having structure in these SMEs. Let's even include MSMEs. They carry all of them structures. I was talking with my wife some few days ago about putting proper structure in our business. How much do you make in a week? How many drums of things you bring to the table? Can you put the proper structure? How you spend on? By the time I did it with her for like 3 days or 4 days, she told me I should hands off her business.
That's your wife.
That's my wife. She told me I should hands off her business.
Oh,
that I should just leave it to her the way she handles it. And most times, this has also been responsible for why so many SMEs or MSMEs fails. How do you go around this?
Oh yes, you know, before you go into any project, there has to be cost-benefit analysis. Your wife may not have been able to appreciate the benefit side. She is probably apprehensive about the cost of her time, of writing, of recording, and all that. But if you want to have dealing with any financial institution, your record is what speaks about who you are. So, and if you don't have record, you may go to your business center in the morning and maybe you sell something for 100. You say, I made a lot of money today, and then you dip hand in there and spend 10,000. But to have record, you know what your cost is, and you know what your revenue is. Then you'll be able to know actually what you are making and assign salary to yourself. Talk about structure.
Yeah.
So if you are a human being, you are a man, you should be able to separate your family from your business. The business is an entity. And because it's an entity, you manage it like an entity. Entity cannot exist if it's not making profit. So if you don't have record and are dipping your money, that's why many businesses fail. So there's need for you to keep the record, because if you are going to a bank for loan, whether it's government subsidy loan or is a commercial rate loan, they need that information. And that information can either be kept by yourself on paper, in a book, or on computer. And that's going to really help you to know how you have grown over the years. Generally, before you start a business, you have to project. That's what we call business plan. And you project your cash flow. So if you are a tailor, for instance, how many suits, what you are wearing now, can you produce this year? How much is it going to cost you? How much are you going to sell it? How many do you intend to produce next year for the next 5 years? So if you are growing incrementally from 50, 100 to 150 like that, then you should be able to project the costs, and then the revenue, and then the margin not like the profit. Is that profit you as the business promoter will be able to take a portion salary to yourself, and so that your business can exist? But if there's no record, there's going to be a problem. So you keep the record, for the future of your business. Because without the record, nobody will be able to say anything about you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atta Joseph Abdul, the Chairman of Committee, Micro, Small and Medium Sized Enterprise, for joining us. I hope we can continue having this kind of conversation, especially for so many small-scale business who doesn't know the importance of this and how to be able to access loan from federal government to be able to grow their business.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to you remember the president is supposed to have been
here. Hopefully we can have the president.
We also have our chairman of the board of the MSME Forum. The overall chairman board of trustees is based in Oshobo in Osun State. That's Dr. Albert Akiemi, and Alaj Garba Ibrahim is the president.
Okay, hopefully next time we have all of you together in the studio. We can talk more.
Yeah, we hope we're going to have that.
Talking with the chairman, the chairman for the micro small economic scale, talking to us on so many challenges facing the MSME. And now the government policy can be able to help assuage the hot feelings and probably grow the IGL in the country. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we'll come back, we'll be talking about something different. This time around, we'll be talking about the electricity challenges first in the country. And now we can be able to find a balance for really to help the people of the country.